Connecting with customers is table stakes, but adding a streamlined enrollment process, increasing engagement, and finding the best point solutions, that's the winning hand. The question is, how do you do that? We'll find out on this episode of ShiftShapers.
Change either energizes or paralyzes. The choice is yours. This is the ShiftShapers podcast, bringing the employee benefits industry interviews with individuals and companies who are shaping the industry's shifts. And now, here's your host, David Saltzman.
And to help us answer that, we have invited Sally Pace, CEO at Connect Healthcare Collaboration. Welcome, Sally. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me on, David. I'm excited.
It's our pleasure. So we usually ask people about their background. How do you get to be doing what you're doing? Because for most of us in this business, it's not a straight line. So what's your backstory? How did you find yourself doing this kind of crazy work?
Absolutely. Well, first, the simple answer is I've been married into it for 28 years. The professional side of is that I didn't dream of being in the employee benefits industry, healthcare, insurance, lump them all together. When I was in college, I was an English major, and I loved the written word and the spoken word. Those of you that know me know how much I do love to talk. And I have made a career, over the course of my career, working for companies like HGTV, AutoZone, FHN Financial, one of in the fixed income capital markets arena, being put in positions where if I could put something into terms that I could understand, then anyone could. That came most clear right out of the gate at HGTV because at the time it was the fastest growing cable network in the United States, actually in the world, and I loved all of the design projects that were shown. So naturally, I was put in charge of helping communicate the building and remodeling projects.
Of course.
Got to live out what I've learned. But the other side of it is having been married to a benefits consultant for 28 years next month.
Congratulations.
Thank you. To the same person, too.
Well, that's important.
That's right. That I've seen, this shift, if you will, in this emergence of all these great solutions that are transparent, that are niche, that are really doing wonderful things, and there was an opportunity there to help them share their story, tell their build their brand, and drive employee engagement.
It really is, and that's key. And our practices are different, although we work in different ends of the same kind of marketing. I'm more message, you're more execution.
Yes.
But it's incredibly important, especially if you want to stand out, and because there's lots of folks out there plying the trade these days. So if you had to focus in on like one major problem when you started, what was that problem that you set out to solve?
Well, it is solely everything we do is about ultimately driving employee engagement. And so that is our laser focus across all our business lines.
So how do you do that? I mean, it's as plans have gotten more complex and employees have gotten more, for lack of a nicer term, fed up with medical insurance, especially. How do you do that? What's the kind of things that you look for? What should other people be kind of keying in on?
Sure. Well, we've seen over the past, let's call it 5 years, kind of pre-pandemic, this surge, and then certainly post-pandemic, this reliance on AI and platforms and digital tools. And those are wonderful. But at the end of the day, particularly the people that need the most help within a plan need a person to hold their hand. And so we've built a couple of business lines around that. And I'd love to tell you a little bit about, how we do that in different areas. When we think about these point solutions that are entering the marketplace, and you know this just like I do, you've got these really well-intentioned, say a clinician that has decided they're going to build some fabulous platform or product that is going to help solve a healthcare need. They're not often enlightened on the fact that you just don't go straight to an employer and sell your thing and it gets plugged in, and then the employer tells all their employees how wonderful they are. you typically have to bring the consultant into the conversation early on. They're helping make those decisions, and so that's a two-step sales process. And then once you get plugged in, that's just the beginning. From there, you've got to create powerful messaging, visuals, explainer videos that really help drive the engagement, because to your point, employees are so overwhelmed with everything, life in general. But at the end of the day, we know that old marketing principle, the rule of 7. Once somebody starts to see something multiple times, they start to understand that it is something that they need to pay attention to. And so that's one. And then, like I said, we use people to drive the marketing messages. We have 2 different types of advocacy: clinical advocacy and benefits advocacy. So as those imply, either using clinicians to help deliver the message, coupled with marketing tactics, or we use exceptional concierge, high-touch people to help educate and explain and walk someone through the process of this thing that's been made available to them that's the best thing since sliced bread, but they don't understand how to use.
Why is having somebody to hold your hand important?
Well, there are 3 statistics that are also at kind of our North Star, if you will, at changing, not moving towards. And that is, there was a recent study that was released, and 68% of participating employers reported that they feel that benefits are underutilized by their employees. Couple that with the fact that only 12% of the U.S. adult population is healthcare literate. And then the third stat, the saddest of all, is that medical billing is one of the primary causes of personal bankruptcy in our country. So you've got employers that are offering great things to people that don't understand them, and even if they did, or don't know that they're available, and even if they did, wouldn't know necessarily how to use them, and it's bankrupting everybody, employers and employees alike. And so, and you and I both, we love written word, we love language, and those are great, but the people, again, that need the most help feel typically sick, scared, alone, and borderline broke, and they need a friend. And so we deliver that.
And that's, we're having, as you are, I'm sure, a lot of conversations around, I'm having them in my practice, I'm sure you are, about AI and what role AI can play. And, what we're telling people is that AI is great, but at least at the moment, it doesn't have a lot of situational awareness. It's not personalized, so it can come off as being inauthentic. And the one thing it can't do that you deal in and that we help clients with is strategy. If you give it an email that you wrote that is basically, chuck you, Farley, I don't ever want to talk to you again, and make it nice, it will do that. But it's I think you're right, that human part of it is really important. Do you find that once employees kind of start getting used to the fact that they've got somebody to help their hand, they engage more and they're more compliant?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You think of, if your child has just been diagnosed with some rare disease, first of all, you're probably not going to call an 800 number to get information. Well, you may go to the World Wide Web, but you're not going to call the back of your insurance card's 800 number and ask to speak. But again, by marrying marketing principles with clinical outreach, for our team, when we're plugged in, you've already seen the face of the person that is assigned to you. You know them. You've heard their voice. You've watched their explainer video on what a balance bill is, or how to navigate preferred versus non-preferred drugs at the pharmacy, and so you trust them. And we say trust equals influence. And so when somebody calls you, because we do use, so going back to AI, it's a tremendous resource for data warehousing, data collection. When you're able to identify people that need help and then call them and say, I'm here for you, I can help you, and here's how. And when you go to the doctor next week, here are the 10 things you need to ask. Who doesn't want that?
There's a lot of talk, since we're on the AI subject for a little while, and then we'll move on. There's a lot of talk about agentic AIs, where when somebody calls into whatever number they've got on their card or in the app or whatever they're using to contact, they're actually talking to a bot. And some of them have gotten scary good. Do you see the the replacement at some point of human beings in the process? Or do you think that there will always be a desire for human beings to connect with other human beings?
Well, I hope that there is never a world that we live in where humans don't want to connect with other humans. Um, and, really, David, what you're describing is that reactive approach. Something has happened and I need to go somewhere. And that's drastically different than the principles we hold to be true. And that is, I called you first. I reached out to you first. If you call me, you're calling me back. But that's not, we don't live by that. We're not waiting for people to call in. Now, do they? Sure, sometimes. But the people that we work with and the groups that we work with, we're calling you once you join the team. We're one of the first calls you receive to say welcome aboard, and let me walk you through all of this.
That's huge, and because people oftentimes, even if they have resources, and somebody hasn't reached out to them, they're not comfortable, they're not sure exactly, gee, if I call this number, what's going to happen and what. So you're making friends before you need them.
Exactly.
I know you also help with enrollment, and trying to make that process easier. There are loads of, again, systems out there to do that, but there aren't loads of humans who really understand it. What are the things that, if you're looking to help enroll a group, what are the things that an advisor should be looking for?
Well, so first and foremost, I'm going to continue to go back and beat my educational marketing communications drum. And that is, if all you're walking in there with is an open enrollment guide, or hell, some of these groups are only doing summary plan design these days, but you're just doing a guide, you will never, you have missed the mark in spades before you even got off the start line. It requires a thoughtful, year-long communication plan, so that, again, this rule of 7, that employees are able to see, understand, learn about things well before they need them. So the other is, and there's nothing wrong with this, but just in transparency, how we're different than carrier call banks, for example. Well, clearly they're typically there, but on behalf of one of the carriers, as opposed to, for our team, we explain or spend just as much time explaining the medical plan and talking through, do you have a teenager that's going to, or I guess these days it's a preteen that needs braces in a couple of years, and how do we plan for that, as it is selling a voluntary product. And so that's another big, for a broker, understanding that you have an opportunity to really educate people on how to be good stewards of not only their own money, but the plan's money. And that may sound crass and capitalistic, but employers need that right now. They need you to be their partner in helping them watch the bottom line. And so that starts with educating and driving engagement appropriately through their population.
And now, a word from our sponsor. You're not just an advisor, you're a game changer. Forget cookie-cutter off-the-shelf solutions. That's yesterday's news. It's 2025, and it's all about delivering bold, custom-crafted plans that truly make a difference. At the core is a razor-sharp self-insured framework, but the real magic? That's in the high-impact point solutions you strategically layer in to slash costs and supercharge member outcomes. But let's be real, that's where the headaches start. Hours wasted sifting through endless options, wrestling with integration issues, and fighting data sharing roadblocks. It's a time suck, and it's holding you back. Not anymore. Meet BenePower, the AI-powered game changer that builds killer plans in minutes, not hours. BenePower doesn't just curate the best point solutions, it makes them work together seamlessly, streamlining communication and driving collaboration like never before. With BenePower, you're armed with an end-to-end AI-enabled solution that makes you unstoppable. Spend less time piecing together a patchwork plan and more time selling. Your clients get unmatched ROI, and you become the go-to advisor that everyone's talking about. Want to take your game to the next level? Visit BenePower.ai or schedule a demo at info@benepower.com. Find your power with BenePower. And now, back to our conversation. I'm an old TPA, so I've kind of always had
Yes.
this fiduciary mindset, but most people don't, and certainly plans don't. But with the lawsuits that have been floating around the last couple of years and are becoming more prevalent, it's really a plan's, in a self-funded environment, it's a plan's fiduciary responsibility to make sure that their employees are using the tools and understand them, and thereby make good use of the plan's assets and resources. Have you had a pickup in interest about that based on those kinds of new fiduciary conversations?
Yes, yes and no. I mean, thankfully, we are the kinds of groups that are attracted to us are the ones that truly care about helping their people understand their plan. Um, I still think that we're just on the cutting edge of this fiduciary discussion, even though it's been around for quite some time. I feel like we're just starting to see in the self-funded space employers it really clicking that, oh, wait, that means me. That means I'm responsible. And so I do hope and expect that over the course of the next couple of years that, yes, that will play into it. But, over the past few years for us, it has been these employers and that are self-funded that need help guiding their people.
I know one of the things that you also help advisors with for their clients is kind of sorting through this myriad of point solutions. How do you do that? What kind of challenges are you seeing, and how do you help resolve those?
Well, thank you for asking, because that's one of our newest offerings, and that came through the pandemic. We saw, as we were helping build brand for different solutions, that there was this gaping opportunity, and it allowed us to build a platform called the Granite List. And the Granite List does for the point solution arena what OpenTable might do for restaurants or TripAdvisor for hotels, backed with a community focus or an engagement community platform. And we did that because, again, kind of drawing from my personal experience being married to a benefits consultant, seeing that they are inundated with hundreds of emails every week from every solution out there trying to get their attention. And they're supposed to be selling, and they're supposed to know what the next best thing is that's coming out, but it's impossible. And they simply don't have the bandwidth to take every demo call that comes their way. And so we built the Granite List to allow the solutions that were entering the marketplace that maybe didn't have the big budgets of, an Optum, another PBM that's coming out, to level that playing field and put them in front of the buyers, during what we call point of interest, meaning I'm a benefits consultant, I'm curious about what PBMs are out there. I can go to the old Google box and peck away and go to all their pages, or I can go to a consolidated platform that allows me to search and source the ones that might be best for this particular group. So we built that to really kind of shorten the curve of learning, but we also, because of who we are, decided that it had to have an educational component. And so we produce a tremendous amount of content on behalf of the solutions that are part of the Granite List to help educate benefits leaders on what they need to know now and what's next.
That's huge. So if I'm a point solution, I come to you and I say, I want to be part of this. You do an assessment and try to figure out what's necessary in order to take their solution speak and translate it into English that mere mortals will understand?
We do offer that, but if you're a solution, you don't even have to come to me. You just go to thegranitelist.com, and if you're confident in what you're doing and you feel like you don't need any additional help, you can create a profile for no charge on the site. So the site is free to use. Now, we do have marketing packages where we allow for extra support and help with messaging and whatnot. But at base level, it is open to anyone. Not the employee. It's not designed. I do want to clarify. It's not designed for. This is the one thing that isn't. It's intended to drive employee engagement ultimately, but here this is a platform built primarily for the benefits leader,
Sure.
benefits consultant, HR world.
And we'll put a link to that in the show notes so that if you want to reach out and you want to learn more about it, you'll know where to do that. We've got a couple of minutes left. As as we kind of wrap up, where do you see things going in the next couple of years? I mean, there's been a ton of change, especially arguably since ACA, but it seems like that rate of change is just increasing for advisors. What do you see coming down the pike? What does the landscape look like from where you and your company sit?
Well, there are two buzzwords that I'll continue to, ride the train on: transparency and personalization. Now, when I say transparency, not just price, certainly price transparency, transparency in how to use the thing. I mean, I think that's part of why we've gotten to this mess and where we are today, is that healthcare is confusing to the average American, and so there's not a transparent way to access and use it. And so we are so proud to be playing a role in that and helping Point Solutions become more transparent, help with driving employee engagement. Personalization. That's the other wonderful thing about especially the self-funded space, is that there is this opportunity to bring in, I'm not advocating for this, but you could bring in 40 different point solutions if you wanted, based on your population's need. And we've never been able, never has there been a time in our country where plans could be designed that way. And so really, but to get there, you have to understand who the people are that you're trying to serve. And so that continual look at high touch personalization, I believe, will be continue to be a driver for employee engagement across all spectrums of our industry.
There's still a tremendous amount of work to do, because that stat that you quoted earlier about only 12% of Americans are healthcare literate, that comes from our friends at the Kaiser Family Foundation, and that number hasn't changed in, good grief, I can't remember how long.
Yep.
And I've been at this a long, long time. I've earned all this gray hair. I can tell you which groups the gray hairs are. So kudos to you for doing this. Sally Pace, CEO at Connect Healthcare Collaboration. Sally, thanks so much for a really interesting conversation.
Well, David, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor and our producer, Hatcher Media. Hey, if you need podcast production or professional graphic design, Josh Hatcher's the expert to contact. For more information, visit him at hatchermedia.net. That's HATCHER media.net.
This ShiftShapers podcast is copyrighted content and may not be reproduced in whole or in part without the express written permission of ShiftShapers Solutions, LLC. Copyright 2024.